Okay, so picture this. We're inside a small interrogation room looking at a 19-year-old suspect named Caleb Hayward. On the streets, he goes by Glow, a name that sounds confident, like he's in control. But in here, under the bright lights and the weight of a serious investigation, that whole tough guy act is about to absolutely crumble. That right there, y'all got me fucked up, bro? That's our destination. That's the climax. It's a moment of complete and total emotional breakdown. But this isn't just some random outburst. It's the sound of a person's entire world breaking apart in real time. To really get how he reached this breaking point, we've got to rewind a few days.
So, how did we get here? Well, it all kicks off with two incredibly violent crimes in Orlando, Florida, and they happen less than a week apart. First, on December 6th, there's a home invasion at a recording studio where two guys get shot. Then, just 6 days later, another man is robbed and shot on the street. And in both of these attacks, the victims point the finger at the same person.
And that street name, Glow, it leads detectives right to 19-year-old Caleb Hayward. Now, this kid is no stranger to the system. He'd already done time for armed robbery, and had only been a free man for 2 months. Just 2 months before he's sitting right back in an interrogation room. So when the detectives get him into interview room 6, he's practically a zombie. He's slumped over in his chair, looks like he's half asleep, and he's barely even responding to them. If you were just watching, you'd think he couldn't care less that he's being questioned for a couple of attempted murders.
All right, so the interrogation kicks off, and right away, it's a total standoff. Caleb throws up that classic wall of denial, but the detectives, they're patient. They've been here before. They know this is just round one.
And you can just feel the dynamic in that room, right? You've got Caleb on one side, he's groggy, slouching, giving these evasive one-word answers. And on the other side, you have the detectives, who are just calm, methodical, almost procedural. They're not yelling or trying to force a confession. Nope. They're just slowly and carefully laying the groundwork. And his go-to move, he just keeps trying to shut the whole thing down with lines like this. I need to go home, bro. And he's not begging, he's dismissing them. He's trying to act like he's in control, like this is just some minor hassle he can just walk away from. But yeah, the detectives are not playing that game. Okay, so just talking isn't getting them anywhere. The detectives realize this, and they pivot. Big time. They stop asking him so many questions, and they start presenting him with cold, hard facts. And this is where the pressure really starts to build. And they don't just dump all the evidence on him at once. No, this is strategic. First, they connect him to a Facebook page. Then, they drop a bombshell. One of the victims positively ID'd him in a photo lineup. And for the finisher, they show him how his phone number is linked to victims from both crimes. Each piece of evidence is like another brick in the wall that's closing in around him. And you can literally watch the change happen in real time. That groggy, slouching kid, he's gone. Suddenly, he's sitting bolt upright, totally rigid, with his arms folded tight across his chest. That's not just a posture change, it's a huge nonverbal cue. His body is screaming that he feels the pressure, even if his mouth won't admit it. He's cornered. So, the pressure is on. Caleb knows just denying everything isn't going to cut it anymore. He's got to come up with a new story. But in his scramble to build an alibi, he makes a huge, and I mean fatal, mistake. So he completely changes his tune. He actually admits to the shooting on Rosewood Way. But he flips the script. He claims the victim, a guy named Terrell Radford, was high and pulled a gun on him first. He says it was self-defense, bro, that he only fired because he thought his life was in danger. And honestly, it sounds like a plausible story. It's a potential way out. But, and this is the million-dollar question, right? Does his version of events actually line up with what the victim had already told the police? Because in an interrogation room, the tiny little details, they're everything. And boom, there it is, the fatal flaw. Just look at this table. The victim, Radford, told police he was shot with a silver revolver. But Caleb, in his new self-defense story, claims he fired a black semi-automatic. That's not a small detail. That's a massive contradiction. And the detectives, they catch it instantly. His whole story is crumbling. The detectives can smell blood in the water. They know he's right on the edge. They've picked apart his denials. They've exposed the lie in his new story. So now they go in for the final push to bring the whole facade crashing down for good.
So one of the detectives makes a move. He slides his chair closer, invading his personal space, upping that psychological pressure. He looks Caleb right in the eye and hits him with this perfect metaphor. You're in a sinking ship right now. The message couldn't be clearer. Your lies aren't going to save you. You are going down. And then they hit him with the final nail in the coffin, a number, 0. That's the bond amount on the warrants that a judge has already signed. This isn't a maybe, it's already done. And that number means there's no getting out, no going home. For Caleb, this is the exact moment the threat of prison stops being some abstract idea and becomes terrifyingly, suffocatingly real. But you know what? It wasn't just the fear of prison that finally shattered him. In the middle of all his panic and his denials, he accidentally lets it slip that he has a baby on the way. And the detectives immediately realize that this is his real weakness, the deep-seated fear that he is never going to get to be a father to his child.
And that is the moment everything just completely unravels. He just explodes. He starts thrashing around in his chair, slamming his body against the walls, screaming. And then all that defiance, all that rage, just collapses into these deep, gut-wrenching sobs. The confident street persona of Glow is totally gone. All that's left is a terrified 19-year-old kid who is watching his freedom disappear right before his eyes.
After that explosion, the interrogation is, well, it's pretty much over. The hard part is done. Now all that's left is for Caleb to face the incredibly severe, life-altering consequences of the crimes he's now tied himself to. So what's next? He is staring down a laundry list of charges from 2 completely separate incidents. We're talking armed robbery with a firearm, attempted first-degree murder, aggravated battery, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. These are some of the most serious felonies you can get, and they don't just point to more prison time, they point to a possible life sentence.
And let's be really clear about this. In Florida, these aren't the kind of charges you get probation for. There's no easy way out. Armed robbery with a firearm has a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence. Attempted murder can get you life. There are no second chances here.
And in that moment of just total brokenness, you hear the real tragedy. He talks about his own father who wasn't there for him, and his desperate, desperate wish not to repeat that same cycle with his own child. It's just a heartbreaking realization that, in trying to live this life, he's guaranteed that he will become the one thing he swore he'd never be. So this whole story leaves you with a really heavy question. In that interrogation room, we didn't just watch a confession, we watched a future. The chance to be a father, the hope for a different kind of life. We watched all of it evaporate in just a few hours. So what's left for someone when all of that is taken away in an instant?